Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning. Keep it here for complete Kavanaugh coverage. Joined by our great friend Steve Moore joining us from a variety of organizations, whether it's Heritage, Freedom Works, the President of the United States. We remember when Mr. Moore was in here with the Idaho Freedom Foundation. He loves Sun Valley. He loves Idaho. I hope I've done you justice, Mr. Moore. Good to have you back.
Hi, Kevin. Great to be with you, and you have. And by the way, today is the big day, isn't it?
Well, as someone who knows the president and has worked at the highest levels of government, and I promise we will talk about the economy because it's great, your thoughts on being in the swamp there?
Well, it is a swamp, and, I just heard that little clip you played, and I don't think I've ever been more disgusted by, and I've been here 37 years. This is a new low for the left, and it's just revolting. And these people will destroy. They're like a steamroller. They'll destroy anything that comes in front of them. And it's just sad. It makes me sad, really, and it makes me disgusted by the whole process. And it's all the more reason we have to drain the swamp.
Indeed. Apparently, the swamp doesn't want to be drained, but
that's for sure. I'm here in the swamp, and look, when I first came here, there was obviously a lot of battles that were fought, but it didn't get personal, and it didn't get, ridiculous, outrageous charges. The left has lost their mind here. The idea that without any kind of evidence, you can just destroy a guy. I was listening last night on MSNBC. This man's a rapist. He's a rapist. Even these women are accusing him of rape. They feel like they're on some kind of holy mission to destroy this man, and the ends justify the means with the left, and that's why I think it's so interesting when you see some of these old liberal civil liberties, professors and like Alan Dershowitz saying, "Wait, what are we doing here? We're the ones who used to believe in the civil liberties of the accused, and now, these are like witch trials."
Indeed, and you hit the nail on the head, and maybe because Stephen Moore, we have some miles on the odometer. You look at these young reporters, and they have this glint in their eyes as if it's some type of religious experience, not giving somebody the presumption of innocence.
One of the things that I find interesting is just, talking to women. And I find that it's women who are most outraged by this because, look, women have sons, women have brothers, and they realize that, how do you, and I know at least 2 or 3 kids who have been in college whose lives have been ruined by the Me Too movement and false accusations that, we know that didn't happen, but how do you defend yourself? So anyway, look, I think that we're going to see what happens. She's going to probably come across as credible. She's been very well coached, right? He's going to come across as credible. It's going to be his word against her word, with virtually no corroborating witnesses. The couple, 2 or 3 people have come forward, in the last few days, none of them have any credibility whatsoever. That one woman, I was drunk. I'm not really sure, but this person was on top of me. He looked like, Kavanaugh, but I really can't be sure. That's evidence?
Well, it's crazy. And, I worked the Duke lacrosse thing from the very beginning, so I know all about the false allegations, sir. So
yeah,
it is crazy. But let's move on to the economy. We'll save ourselves from ourselves on this one. When you and the president first started talking about this economic plan, did you think that you'd have these great results so quickly?
No, I didn't. Look, I knew it would work. In fact, I was just over at the White House the other day, and I had seen the president, and I joked about that. I said, Mr. President, when Larry Kudlow and I drew this plan up on that chalkboard, even we didn't think, it would work like this. It's like being up 63-0 in the third quarter in a football game. So, the economy has really reacted in an extraordinarily positive way to the Trump policies. And it's not just the tax cut. The tax cut had a big impact, but I think it was also the deregulation, the pro-America energy policies. Frankly, just replacing a community organizer with a pro-business businessman who knows how to create jobs and knows how to meet a payroll and knows how businesses work. That's made all the difference in the world. And, I don't know if you saw the latest forecast, but the Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank the other day now forecast for the third quarter of this year, which is over in a few days, they're estimating 4.5% growth. 4.5. Can you believe that?
After 8 years of President Obama.
We never got 1 year in Obama over 3% in 8 years. In 18 months, Trump has gotten us to 4.5% growth. Obama's last year in office, the economy grew at 1.6%. So it's like the car was driving 16 miles an hour down the highway under Obama. Now it's driving 44 miles an hour down the highway. That's a pretty big difference.
Indeed. Steve Moore, could you tell us here at KIDO Talk Radio what the impact, the negative impact of 8 years of President Obama's policies did to us?
Well, look, I mean, we had a recovery. By the way, I have a book coming out that I'm going to recommend to all of your listeners. It comes out in literally 2 or 3 weeks. It's called Trumponomics, the inside story of Trump's America First policy. I wrote it with Art Laffer, the famous economist who was one of the inspirations for the Trump tax cut. So it's our story of what we did, with Donald Trump, and it's a firsthand account. And it was Trump. Trump believes in growth. He believed that the American economy and the American people could do much better than Obama. Now, Obama got us out of the recession, for sure, and I'll give him credit for that. And it was, by the way, it's been 100 months without a recession, so that's it. But it's been a flat recovery, and we went to so many areas of the country on the campaign, everywhere from North Carolina to West Virginia to Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Iowa, my home state of Illinois. There's no recovery in those places. They were places that were left for dead. And even, remember, Obama said very famously a couple months before the election, Trump says he can get the 4% growth and that we can have all these manufacturing jobs back. Said, how is he going to do that with a magic wand? Well, you know what, Kevin? Maybe Donald Trump has a magic wand because the jobs are back.
Indeed. What do you make of the Fed raising the interest rates? Is that a good thing?
That's a good question. I have some reservations about it. You said if you watch Trump's virtuoso performance yesterday, by the way, it was one of the best press conferences I've seen a president ever give in my life. And by the left is apoplectic about it, but it was an awesome performance. But anyway, this issue was brought up about the Fed. And I tend to agree with what the president said. Look, the party's just starting to roll. Why do you want to take the punch bowl away, right? I mean, do you see any inflation out there? I mean, there's not much inflation. Farmers aren't getting inflationary, increases in their food and the agricultural products. There's very little. You go to Walmart, you're not seeing increases in prices of things. So, I just worry that the people at the Fed are trying to snuff out this growth. And I don't really see necessarily the need for that. I do want the Fed to keep inflation under control and the dollar stable and strong, but it is stable and strong, and we do have very low inflation. So I'm somewhat skeptical of the need for all these rate increases.
Steve Moore joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Can you pre-order that book on Amazon yet?
It will be out. Let's see. I think the pub date is like October 21. So probably, but I think you could probably advance order it. And I mean, it's a fun read. You can read it in about 3 or 4 nights. It's really the story of from the first time we met Trump, and I mean, by the way, Donald Trump is an amazing guy. I mean, he is in person. I don't know if Kevin, you've met him personally, but I had not met him until he asked us to come to Trump Tower a couple of years ago, and I just fell in love with the guy. He's amazing. He has a vision. Sometimes, I don't always agree with everything he says, and sometimes I wish he would tweet a little less, so he has some bad characteristics. Who doesn't? But, the guy he's so pro-America. He loves people. He believes in America, and he knew that we could do better than Obama. And boy, have we. And, I testified yesterday before Congress, and all these Democrat senators saying, oh, why did we do this tax cut? I'm like, why did we do the tax cut? Look around. I mean, I travel everywhere from Portland, Oregon to Portland, Maine, and everywhere in between, Kevin. Every city you go to, it's probably true there in Boise. I haven't been to Boise in a while. Building cranes everywhere.
Yeah.
New factories, new warehouses, new condominiums, new apartment buildings. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And so if there's something radically right going on with the American economy, you got to give Trump a lot of credit for it.
Final question, Steve Moore, for you. What's your insight with the trade war with China? Of course, we hear doom and gloom from the press.
Well, we may be in for the long haul here. I mean, I'm a free trade guy, and I don't agree with Trump's auto and steel tariffs. He knows I don't like those, and he knows that. But I do think that when it comes to China, we have to get very tough with China. I think most Americans agree. They have been very abusive, the Chinese. They cheat, they steal. You know, we buy $500 billion from them. They only buy $140 billion from us. They should buy twice as much of our products. But they have so many trade restrictions. It's not free or fair trade we have with China. They steal. Do you know, Kevin, they steal $300 billion of our intellectual property every year? Our computer software, our pharmaceutical products, our copyrights, our patents. You know, that's not, we can't live with that any longer. So the ball is in Beijing's court, and I'll tell you, you know, I'm going to tell you one thing about Donald Trump, Kevin. You can take to the bank on this China situation. Trump ain't backing down here.
Well, and I agree with you, Steve, when you're talking about what China does, and yet on the other hand, we want to be their friend. We have them in our universities. They come into our country all the time. They're our largest trading partner, and they steal from us.
Yeah, and I mean, you raised the operative word there is friend, and you know we have to ask ourselves: are they really our friends? I mean, this is the country that enabled North Korea to get a nuclear bomb. This is a country that's stealing from us. This is a country that cheats. This is a country that is massively building up its military in Asia. I might, 10 years ago, I might have regarded them as a friend, but I regard them increasingly, I think Trump does too, as an adversary. And, you know, this is a good time to stick up to China and go toe-to-toe with them because our economy is booming, as we just talked about. Their economy is reeling. Did you see their stock market's down 20% this year? So I think Trump is going to win here. There's an old saying that, you know, if we can't trade with China, we sneeze. If they can't trade with us, they catch pneumonia. And I think Trump is using that leverage. And I wouldn't bet against Trump here. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I wouldn't bet against him.
Steve Moore, we always appreciate you making time for us here in Idaho, sir.
Thanks, Kevin. Have a great weekend.
You too. Take care. Steve Moore joining us, talking about his new book and how he met President Trump. Yesterday, he's testifying before Congress. Today, he's waking up with us here in the Treasure Valley. That's what we do. We want to give you access to the newsmakers. And then when we're done with them, we want you to talk about it. Let's go to Doug Mountain Home with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, I listened to that. Oh, yeah, I can't even spit it out, Kevin. The news media that Trump had last night or yesterday or whenever, I listened to it all the way home, and it was a class act. The guy is phenomenal with it. Anybody, especially with the news media, you could just see him trying to browbeat him on this stuff coming up with these women. And I don't understand why. I mean, they got to know. I know they know, and I wish they would bring it right out on open air for the public to hear it. You know, I'd look right at them and go, why don't you take your George Soros, you know, money and just go away? Because that's what this is all about. I've talked to you about it before. You know, it's George Soros and the Democrats. Anybody with a brain can see that they're just trying to do this last. They don't want a conservative as a judge in power. You know, they don't want it to tip. So they, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm not good at this. That's why I'm trying to hold down my volume and my language. Sorry for some of the stuff I've said on there before.
No worries, Doug. We love your passion and your honesty, and we never want to censor anybody. It comes down to this: by any means necessary, by hook or crook, they want to take a good man down, and you're right to be fired up about it.
Yeah, and I wish everybody with a brain that loves this country would get fired up about it. The other thing, what your man just said on there about, and you ask him about the Fed, I listened, and I'm sure you did too. Trump don't like it at all, and he said so.
Yeah.
And I think you run this over in your mind. The Fed is not, they don't have nothing to do with our government. It's a private entity. They own the printing presses. And I think all they raise it for when the economy's good is they rake in more money.
Right.
I mean, that's what I think it's all about. You know, it's a private entity, and all you got to do is go to a Federal Reserve Bank and ask them, are you guys private, or do the U.S. government, the people own it? And they'll come right out and tell you, no, we're a private entity. And they own the printing presses. I have been told, and I don't know if it's true, Kevin, but I wouldn't doubt it. I've been told that's why Kennedy was assassinated, part of it, because he was going to do away with them and have our own printing presses. That's what I've been told. So I'll get off here. I appreciate you guys doing this. I really do. It's the only place I get my news, Kevin, period. I don't own a TV. I don't own a computer. I don't have a smartphone, and I never will. So,
well, thank you for your trust, Doug. We won't let you down.
Yep. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
I've had a lot of false charges made against me. I'm a very famous person, unfortunately. I've been a famous person for a long time. But I've had a lot of false charges made against me, really false charges. I know friends that have had false charges. People want fame, they want money, they want whatever. So when I see it, I view it differently than somebody sitting home watching television where they say, oh, Judge Kavanaugh, this or that. It's happened to me many times. I've had many false charges.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. Good morning. Kevin Miller going over the charges, the false charges, all these things against Judge Kavanaugh. And really what we're seeing is mob rule, mob violence. Even Morning Joe, a show on MSNBC, had this to say concerning the latest accuser.
Saying that she went to multiple high school parties where
more than 10.
Basically gang rape factories, which of course begs the question, who would continually go to high school parties where women were being gang raped? And first of all, keep going to those parties. And secondly, not report that to some authorities. And third, not have somebody at all of those parties going, hey, mom, dad, girls are getting gang raped at this party. I mean,
it's just unbelievable, right? As Brett Kavanaugh said recently, this is like the Twilight Zone. I do not know these women. And if you've heard Brett Kavanaugh, Judge Kavanaugh, soon to be Justice Kavanaugh, what did he say? Look, he categorically, without any wiggle room, has denied ever harming any of these women. And yet you have everybody coming out. It's like the revenge of the bar scene at Star Wars. Hey, were you alive in the 80s? Well, I guess Judge Kavanaugh was running wild doing something to you. It comes down to this. Do you believe them? And by the way, thanks to our friend Lori, who tipped us off to this, the 3 15-year-old girls from Idaho now getting national attention, believing Dr. Blasey Ford. Channel 7 did a story on him. The Statesman did a story on him. We were first to have it. The bottom line is they believe Dr. Ford over Kavanaugh. In fact, you'll hear coming up that story from Channel 7 where they asked her what happens if the allegations are wrong. And you'll hear what the young ladies have to say about that. First, traffic and weather together.
Eric Everett.
And here we have it, the attorney for Brett Kavanaugh. You can see Kavanaugh pushing back. His attorney, Beth Wilkinson, spent Wednesday going toe-to-toe with the folks at MSNBC, most notably Trump hater Katie Tur.
Calling her a liar?
I'm not calling her a liar. I think she has known about this for a while, supposedly, and so has Mr. Avenatti. He waved this on some of your programs since last weekend and said he knew about it, and he never went to the police. As an attorney, I know what my obligation is. It's to my client. And if I had represented her, it would have been my duty to go to the police immediately.
Well,
now,
given
why is it that
there
none
are
of those
scores
people have come
over
forward?
years, why is your client not demanding an FBI investigation to get to the bottom of this?
He didn't know about this until it came out today. Mr. Avenatti has had this information for weeks, months. I don't know how long he's had it.
Is he now demanding an FBI investigation?
He knows he didn't do it. It's not his job. If the committee wants to demand an investigation, what I don't understand...
Why doesn't he want an FBI investigation, though, if he knows he's innocent and there are multiple people out there who could go on the record and go under oath or be interviewed by the FBI under threat of perjury? Why would he not want the FBI to get involved?
Thankfully, our system doesn't work the way you're suggesting, that the burden gets put on somebody when there's an accusation.
Well, this isn't a court
There's
trial. This is a job interview. It's two different things.
No, it's out here in the public opinion, and what you're doing right now is a perfect example. You're claiming because he was drinking, he must have done it.
No,
it makes it more likely.
I asked you, can he be confident in his memories? Don't put words in my mouth. I asked you if he was confident in his memories. That's all I asked.
Yeah, but I heard your last session, and you guys were all saying, oh, there's so much detail. There's no detail in here. There's no place. There's 1 or 2 years generally. There's no other people. There's no dates. There's no times. There's no information here other than that there are multiple people supposedly involved.
Does your client believe any of the accusers against the president?
You know, I love this. There's no presumption of innocence. Lindsey Graham, if you heard it earlier on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller, what did he say? Look, this is irresponsible publishing these allegations. They would never do it if the tables were turned.
President.
Does he what? I'm sorry.
Does he believe any of the women who came out and accused the president of sexual misconduct?
I don't know what that has to do with this. I've never discussed that with him. We're talking about what's happening here. And I came today to be on your program to tell you exactly what he believes and what we know, and that's it.
And there we have it. Coming up next, we want to hear from you. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
And we continue on fighting for you. You know, Rhea, I remember the old days when we had the old intro with fighting for you, fighting for America, fighting for Idaho. Then we went to our community-based program. It's almost like we need to bring that back. Everything seems to be a fight these days, right? Now, you've heard everybody yapping about the second accuser, the third accuser, the fourth accuser. It's getting ridiculous. And these FBI investigations. Let's go back to the KIDO Talk Radio 107.5 FM, 580 AM time machine to Joe Biden in 1991. This is what a Democrat, this is what he had to say to Republican Clarence Thomas concerning that FBI investigations, what they mean to senators, what they mean to nominations, what they mean to credibility.
The next person that refers to an FBI report as being worth anything obviously doesn't understand anything. FBI explicitly does not, in this or any other case, reach a conclusion. Period. So, Judge, there's no reason why you should know this. The reason why we cannot rely on the FBI report, you wouldn't like it if we did, because it is inconclusive. They say he said, she said, and they said. Period. So when people wave an FBI report before you, understand, they do not reach conclusions. They do not make, as my friend points out more adequate, they do not make recommendations. So, Judge.
Boy, he can enunciate. Randy in Nampa. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Randy.
Good morning on this special day.
It's the kickoff to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I wish. Hey, did you ever talk yet this morning? I had just tuned in about the two men who volunteered or actually say that they were the ones that encountered Christine Blasey Ford at the party, and they're the ones that tried to take her clothes off, and they were the ones. And, of course, Senator Chuck Grassley has got that information and has got the committee investigating it right now. But they've signed papers already saying that they were the two individuals that did this to her, and it's on the news.
You know, my friend Corey just posted that on our Kevin Miller Show Facebook site. No, I haven't reported that yet, but that's where you come in because
that's pretty big stuff. I mean, when you think about it, she said she had one beer and she wasn't drunk, or she didn't know she was drunk. Obviously, and I know that I was part of that culture when I was going through high school. I never drank or anything like that, but I had girls doing weird things, and I I ran away from them because I was scared. But you know,
Wait a minute, you ran away from the girls?
I did. I can tell you right now that when they get get pushing on themselves and being very open and saying things that, you know, a lady wouldn't say,
right.
I turned my head and ran. I literally did. I didn't want to get into that. I was you know, naive is what you say.
Well,
but,
you know, let me just add to that. You know, the 19 whatever, when we went to high school, all you have to do is watch, let's say, Fast Times at Ridgemont High to get an idea of the times, or even go back further. They were different times, and you had the people treated people differently. But to judge people, what happened today? Look, I can say I've never had hard liquor in my life. I've never had alcohol in my life, with the exception of wine at church. I could do a lot, and a wine cooler once right before I competed on stage because it helps with the sugar. Anyway, let me just say this, that people are going to say, and alcohol, you know, alters your mind. So how can you go back 30 years, never mind 30 minutes or 30 days, when you're inebriated and come up with allegations, credible allegations, is beyond me.
That's true. That's true. I have a tough time last week, but you know, it's kind of interesting in the fact that back then it was more open. I mean, it was boy, girl. You know, I had a situation where I felt, because of this going on right now in our society, I turned to my wife and I said, you know, this took place when I was a teenager. And this is what the girl did, and I took her home, and that was the end of it. I never touched her. But, you know, I'm scared that could turn around on me. You know, I mean, that's the way it is in society today. And I never tried or anything like that, never groped or anything. I was asked to take her home, and by the time she got in the car and got down, she was naked. And I hit the gas and took her home.
Now, wait a minute. You know, hold on. This is a family-friendly show here, Randy. But first,
I understand. I didn't say any graphics.
No, you didn't. And thankfully, I'm thankful for that. But you're in a car. This lady, young girl, just takes off her clothes in front of you while you're driving?
Yes, sir. Yeah, she's living in a little bit less than a poverty situation. She wanted to get out of the home. She was raising her siblings. Her mother was an alcoholic. Her dad had left her. She was in a bad situation, and she was going to make the best of it. And you know, and I scared. I mean, so you're telling me that there's not women out there that do that? I'm just saying, sorry, that's not the case.
You were going to be her meal ticket.
That's exactly right. And you know what? Since that time, she's come up once or twice and tried to get in the middle between me and my wife. But, you know, other than that, you know, she's in another state, and my wife talks to her every now and then, and that's it. That's the end of it. But I had to confess what happened because it's never been brought up, and I was scared that, you know, under these circumstances, I could be in you know, courts.
They could make an allegation, and what man, what woman, what person is safe?
Mm-hmm. That's it. And it could get worse. I mean, you're talking about what the Trump was trying to pin down to about what about our young men? That's the case. You know, 20 years, 30 years from now, they can be pinned down, and to the fact that they were being teenagers and never have a chance in this society. You know, be labeled for the rest of their life and ruin their families and their, you know, the whole thing. So it's really important. This comes out the right way, that we listen to them, we take the information and process it like normal. This society that we have now, that you're guilty and you have to prove your innocence, is all wrong.
Randy, thank you for the call. You have a great day, sir.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. As we said, we will go live to the hearings. Kellyanne Conway just moments ago on Fox and Friends.
We just can't have a trial by TV, on TV, and through the press. They try to do that again and again with so many people, and it won't happen here.
Hopefully it won't happen here, but that's really what's going on. John Decker with a preview.
In his prepared statement, Brett Kavanaugh will tell the Senate Judiciary Committee, I am not questioning that Dr. Ford may have been sexually assaulted by some person in some place at some time, but I have never done that to her or to anyone. I am innocent of this charge. President Trump, meanwhile, says Democrats will be against him regardless of what's said.
It's not going to change any of the Democrats' minds. They're obstructionists. They're actually con artists because they know how quality this man is, and they've destroyed a man's reputation.
Kavanaugh prepared to tell the committee, I will not be intimidated into withdrawing from this process. At the White House, John Decker, Fox News.
And that's really what it comes down to at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, when you're looking at these ads. And he, without sin, cast the first stone. Everybody that is going back and forth on these things, let's start taking a look at this. You've got, the Pro-Choice America, NARAL, launching an online ad. You've got other people launching ads. You've got the progressive group, Ultraviolet, launched an ad campaign telling Republican senators, don't put another sexual predator on the Supreme Court. Now, if you have a husband, if you have a son, if you have just some nice person in the neighborhood, you ever seen somebody convicted of something they didn't do? This is where we come in to say this stuff is wrong.
30 years after Anita Hill and after Me Too and Roy Moore, Republican senators have not changed. They're still blaming a survivor of sexual assault instead of believing her, saying she was mistaken and mixed up. Republicans don't even have one woman on the Judiciary Committee, while two men who attacked Anita Hill's credibility are still sitting there. Susan Collins, it's your party that's mistaken. Don't put another sexual predator on the Supreme Court.
And they have a picture of Brett Kavanaugh, a beloved figure in his community, #1 at Yale, hired by liberal Kagan to run Harvard. This is how they treat a good, decent man. Joining us now, a very good, decent man, Patriot Ray on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Why would any good man want to run for office of any kind now with these actions from the Democratic Party? What really needs to happen right now, immediately, is everybody on the Democratic side who is pushing for this needs to have a background check going back about 36 to 40 years and see what's in their closet and really point out that maybe they shouldn't be here because they are sexual predators, whether they're male or female, from the actions that they've taken when they were in high school or before or after. I mean, this is ridiculous. Come on, every young man is going to make a mistake in his life somewhere along the line. And, whether it's true or not what's being said, rape was not involved in this, even if it were true. I mean, and besides the statute of limitations, it's crazy what they're doing. They're bringing up the past to destroy a great man in my eyes who has done nothing but good. He has served women well. He's put them in places of power in where he's at as a judge. These things are ridiculous. And if the American public and these ads that are being run, something has to happen to punish these individuals who are doing these kinds of things. And I don't know what it can be done except that the Republican Party needs to push back and stand up like men and quit cowering and kowtowing to the Democrats every time they sneeze. This is ridiculous. I look at this and I'm seeing so much hatred in their voices and actions and eyes, and Feinstein holding this for so long and then bringing it out. And then all of a sudden you've got a couple of others who claim that they can't remember either. This just doesn't stand up the smell test. So I look at this, Kevin, as just nothing but a hanging of a good person who's trying to do the best. What I really admire is he hasn't backed down. He hasn't kowtowed. and withdrawn. He and his family are standing strong, and that's got to mean a whole lot more than these people who are coming out after because he's a conservative, and he's going to go by the way of what should be done by the court of law, and they cannot institute these things to destroy these people. So, Kevin, stay fired up. I'll tell you, we so appreciate you and what you do for our area in the Treasure Valley and beyond, because you stand strong for what's right. And by doing that, we stand together. And I'm grateful that I know you. I'm grateful that I've had so many opportunities to be with you and get to know your character and your family. I love you greatly, my brother. And as a brother, you are special. So hang in there. Just keep doing the good fight. I think that's what we all need to do. Stand up, people. Stand against these things. I appreciate you. Thanks for letting me have my few seconds here.
We're humbled to be with you, Patriot Ray. God bless.
Yeah, you have a wonderful day, my friend. God bless.
We'll talk more next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. We will go live to Washington next hour for the hearings as they begin. Lee Joe, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller.
Good morning, Kevin. I'm just kind of thrilled that the liberals are doing this. I can't see any good outcome for them. This is going to turn the election. To be so bald-faced with your false indignation and your false accusations and bring it out there like it's some grand important thing and then go and destroy a man over it. I think that all the people that, kind of that sit on the fence and middle of the road and what have you, they're looking at this and they're just shocked, and they're going to, right before an election, this is the perfect time. They're just shocked, and they're just going to vote the other way. This blue wave just got crushed by the Democrats in the Senate. I think we're talking about it being a negative for Brett Kavanaugh, which I think everybody can see through the allegations, and it's going to be a huge positive for the midterm election. So I say bring forth the minstrels and the jesters and let them entertain us and show us how poorly they lie and what a story and what uncorroborated story they can bring forward, and let us all laugh at it because we're taking an election because of this little circus that they're throwing up there. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Lee Joe. I hope you're right here on KIDO Talk Radio. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Max, Garden City, KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Max.
Good morning, Kevin. Rumor has it that they just got the entire student body of Yale University to sign and swear that Mr. Kavanaugh sexually assaulted them. Is that any less believable? They've got this porn star, for lack of a better word. I don't want to say the right thing. And they've got her sleazy, slimy, ambulance-chasing cockroach who's just coming up with names every time he has a cup of coffee. Oh, here's somebody. Let's put him in the pile. I think it's all the result. And I'm not going afield. You'll find this connects. Americans have become a soundbite generation. By and large, we say, oh, I read the New York Times. No, you read the headline. You read a little script under the picture. You moved on. Oh, I heard it on CNN. We're a soundbite generation, and a lot of this, I believe, is due to the fact that we're sending too many kids to college. We've been convinced that if we don't send our kid to college, we're a failure. We have failed. So our kids go for 4 or 6 years of indoctrination. They come out and get whatever job they can. I have seen in my years, I've seen our society change just as a result of what the colleges are putting out. You're not sending your children necessarily for an education, but for an indoctrination. And when they hear this on the news, they read this little blip, they get a piece off of Twitter. It is trial by multimedia. I think Brett Kavanaugh is going to hold his ground. He's going to tell him exactly what he thinks. He's to tell him the truth. And there are enough people in the Senate who are not soundbite generation. People who actually read. Oh, my Lord, they read. And they're going to vote to put Mr. Kavanaugh into the Supreme Court. There is no blue wave, people.
Max,
my lecture. Thank you.
I appreciate you. God bless. Traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning. Well, thank you very much. The 80s. Well, so much for the air, or the getting rid of the air conditioning and putting in the heat. Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up next, more on Judge Kavanaugh, Dr. Ford. Hear what they have to say. Only on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.